So in the previous lesson, we looked at a boy in a physics class who dropped a weight on his foot and had some injuries, 2 broken bones, kind of split the skin open a little bit, had some swelling, couldn't feel the top of his foot. So that's just kind of going back to the first one. So where we start today is just kind of refreshing our minds what parts of the foot were impacted by the injury. We want to be very specific here. So we know there was some swelling. We know, he was bleeding and stuff. But we want to focus on 4 parts. And we're going to be looking at these things here. We want to look at the bone, muscle, skin, and nerves. And we're going to be looking at a model today, so I'll write those down when we get to there. So we want to come up with an initial model, and I know a lot of times we want to have answers right away, but again, we're starting a new unit and we don't have all the answers, so we have a model to look at. So first thing we want to do is write down what we kind of think we know about it so far. So here's where I'm going to write down our things. So we want to focus on bone. So we had 2 broken bones. There's some muscle. He wasn't able to move his foot around completely the way he wanted to. He couldn't feel the top of his foot, so there's some nerve damage. And then also they had to do some stitches in the skin, so some of the skin was damaged. So this is just to show what was actually damaged in his foot. On page 4 in your folder, or if you don't have your folder, you can also download the attachment that is called Initial Model. So we want to do 2 things in this model here. So injured foot's on the left, healed foot's on the right. We want to somehow show what's damaged. So, and I'm not going to fill this out, you can do your own model, but I'm going to just give you some tips that we kind of did in class. So if, say you got a broken bone, you could kind of draw 2 lines like that with a gap in between it showing that it's broken. How do we show that it's healed? We could kind of do a solid bone over here. If you wanted to show how the skin was split open, maybe you could do one of those zoom in bubbles and kind of show what the skin might look like up on top. Nerve damage and also the muscle is kind of the same thing. So I'm going to leave it to you to show me what it might have looked like what was broken and how it might look, and then how it might look when it's healed. Okay, so again, like an example, we've got a broken bone. There's 2, the lines represent the bones. There's a gap right there, and then, it shows that it's healed here. So first of all, before you do anything else, just kind of do a quick sketch, 1 or 2 minutes only, just showing how the bone might be injured on this side and how it might look when it's healed. How would the muscle look maybe when it's injured over here? How does it look when it's healed? Same thing with the nerve and the skin. Okay, so if you want to pause for a few minutes and go ahead and do that, you can. When you're done, we're going to move on to the next step. And the directions for all this is on the page before, on page 3. So what we did is we just did this A here. So that's just when you're going to be doing your 2 models, showing that you've got the parts impacted by the injury, how they would be before and after. Once you've got that part done, we're going to go to B. What we want to do now is go back to the drawing here for the model. And in the space here where the arrow is, we want you to kind of describe what happens during this healing process. So what is actually happening during the healing process? And I know we haven't talked about a lot yet, but in your mind, what do you think is happening? How does a bone go from 2 pieces back to 1? How does swelling go down? Why did we lose nerve impulses? He went numb on top. What do you think is wrong, and how do you think it got fixed? So if you can come down with, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 ideas about how the healing process might actually work, that's great. So you can just do bullet points here if you want. So 3 or 4 ideas about what's happening during the process. Don't mention that something was broken. We already know that. We already know the damage that happened to the bone, the muscle, the nerves, and the skin. I want to know more about what do you think is happening to go from a broken bone to a healed bone? How do we go from swelling to no swelling? Like, what's happening here? Once you've got your model, take a picture of that and send it to the assignment in day 2. It's going to be called day 2 initial healing model, or initial model, something like that. So send that there. That's worth 10 points, and it's not based on correctness or anything. It's just based on whether you completed what it looked like before and after, and what you thought was happening in between. So we're not going on correctness, we're just going on completion. The next thing we did was we took everybody's ideas, we kind of talked about it, and worked on a consensus model. I'm not going to go through that because I want you to come up with your initial model. So what I will do is I will post a consensus model from one of the classes so you can see that later. And the last thing to do was to look at page 5 in your folder. On page 5 in your folder, just want you to talk with somebody in your family or in your neighborhood. It could be a relative. And you just want to ask them a couple questions. So, have they ever heard or had this happen to them where someone's body parts were completely healed after they were injured? Okay, so you're just finding somebody who's had an injury and something completely healed. Ask them what parts of the body were impacted, a knee, an ankle, a finger, what was the part, and then how long did it take for that to heal? Okay, so that's an easy question to ask somebody, and you're just going to jot down those answers right here in the empty space. Next, have they ever heard or seen of somebody that was healing from an injury that injury affected their ability to sense? So did it affect their ability to smell or feel something or taste something or hear or see? So has that person ever had that experience, or did they know of somebody that had that experience where while they were healing, they lost or it affected their sense of one of those things? The last one, ask that person, do they know of any times where another living thing besides humans healed from an injury? So maybe different types of animals. So has that person ever seen that happen? And again, for all these, you're going to just jot down a quick answer. When you're done with this, you're also going to take a screenshot of this from your notebook, from your folder, and you're going to send that to day 2, and that one's going to be called home learning. This is also worth 10 points. Again, we're not basing on what kind of answers you have, if they're right or wrong. It's just what you're finding out. But if you have all 3 of these done, it's worth 10 points. So that's what we did in class today, and we ended with this as a homework. So this was a homework assignment for kids in class today.